What is negligence? You've probably heard the phrase negligence thrown around quite a bit, and a lot of people have a sense that they kind of know what it means. But what's the legal definition of negligence? In most jurisdictions, negligence means the failure to exercise reasonable care. So what does that mean? That means either doing something that's not reasonable or failing to do something that is reasonable. What does that mean to be reasonable? That's why we have juries. So let me give you some concrete examples of what would be negligence. So let's say, for example, that you're working on a ship and there's certain safety rules. And let's say, for example, when there's crane work being done, the rule is nobody walks underneath the load. Obvious, right? Well, let's say that they haven't roped off the area and there's a rule that says you're supposed to rope off the area and somebody walks underneath it and something drops on them and they get hurt badly. That's negligence. That's company negligence. Why? Because it's not reasonable not to follow your company's safety rules. Another example is, let's say you work in an industry like let's say you work in the trucking industry, and there's certain industry standards for how you inspect your truck before you go on a trip. And let's say you don't inspect your truck, you go on a trip and the brakes fail. Well, that would be negligence, not because of something you did, but because something you didn't do. And so what juries, when they're trying to decide what negligence is, what they're doing is they're looking at what a reasonable person would do. And who decides that? Not AI, not judges, not politicians, but juries. Juries of your peers will look at a situation and say, is this negligence? Is this reasonable or not? And they will make the decision. And that's one of the main reasons that we have a jury system, because a jury can say, look, in our community, for example, we don't think it's reasonable to run through a stop sign and not stop. Like, that's negligence in our community. Or let's say a truck operator doesn't inspect their truck and gets hurt. In our community, if you want to, it's okay to operate 18-wheelers on our roadways, but in our community, if you don't inspect it first, we're going to call that negligence. And so negligence is a little bit of a ambiguous phrase at some time, but it's not ambiguous if you have a lawyer who knows how to make the proper arguments to explain it to a jury. And so if you have a question, for example, if you've been in a situation where either a loved one's been killed or there's been a serious personal injury and you're trying to figure out whether there's negligence involved, the best thing you can do is call a board-certified injury lawyer. A board-certified injury lawyer will have seen so many different negligence situations that they'll be able to tell you almost immediately, yes, that is negligence, or no, that wasn't negligence. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to call 877-724-7800. Ask for me by name.